to interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Y'all know who it is. It's VA the Governor here. We got a special guest. What can I call you?
I mean, whatever you want to, bro.
Okay, I'm gonna call you like the civil activist that be in the background that like whispers in the ear of the person that gets shot. Like the person that gets shot is out there doing everything, but he don't know everything. He got a person that's behind him that whispers in the ear. That's you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Except we don't want nobody to get shot, man.
No, It comes with the Revolution player. We was talking about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just refer to you as Mr. Williams?
Man, Mike, Mr. Williams, whatever you want to call me, brother. Like,
now, if nobody could see you, right? If they couldn't see you, how would you describe yourself?
Man, that's like physically or just in general, like what I do?
Yeah. Just, I can't see you. I want to know who you are. How would you describe yourself?
Yeah, man. So I would say I'm a lifelong Southeast Colorado Springs resident, right? Like I'm really in and from the community in the Southeast. I literally bought my house a street away from where I grew up as a kid. Random how that happened, but it just kind of happened that way. And for me, man, like the most important thing really is community, right? So if I can help out anybody in the community, then I'm going to do that, right? So like professionally, I've been in finances, since I was like 19, like investment life and all that stuff. And I got into that through a community lens, not necessarily trying to chase whales or sharks or all these people with money, but just trying to help build like really like black and brown wealth in our communities. You know, we have a tenth the wealth of our white counterparts, etc. So for me, it's just like I wanted to learn the things to make sure my family and friends was taken care of, and then transition to that being a career. And then along the way, my biggest inspiration was my dad, because he's from Atlanta. Like he grew up during the civil rights movement. He was born like in the 50s in Atlanta. So like him and my mom always encouraged me to like, do something, like you're in the community, do something to benefit the community. So it's just like been a part of my life since I was a kid, you know what I'm saying? So I got involved in like civic engagement as far as, educating people on voting. Did that by myself, like just educating people online or whatever the case may be. And then, did some stuff with different organizations and different groups and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm just passionate about that, really, just making sure the community's taken care of.
So just to let y'all know, if y'all couldn't see him, he is a brown, just based upon his description, just imagine a brown financier with a community revolutionist heart and a Rick Ross beard.
Yeah. That's a great description, man.
Oh man. Now, the next question that we go into, and I think you might have opened the door already, is if you could name an experience or something that you went through or that you saw as a kid that helped shape your perception of reality now, what would it be?
I would say two things really. Is one, growing up, I'm the youngest of 6 kids, right? So we grew up in a house that was around 1,000 square feet, right? So being in a house of 8 people, nieces and nephews, the neighborhood just come over to the house, like that was a big thing, because it made me realize like community does have to rely on each other, right? Growing up poor, really, like we were poor, didn't even know we were poor because we had community. And then you realize older on, like, the reason we couldn't afford Nikes is because we were poor. There's so many of us, right? So like that was a big thing. But in that experience of being raised, seeing how my mom and dad both like grew from when I was younger to before my dad passed away. He passed away from brain cancer and stuff like that.
My condolences.
Thank you. But where he was, when I was younger, I heard stories because I was younger, so I don't remember it, to where he was when he passed away. I mean, it was completely different, right? It was just a monumental growth. So I just let me know, like, if you put time into yourself, you put time into like your relationships, whatever those relationships are, marriage, friends, whatever, family, whatever, you can completely like make your life what you want it to be, right? So yeah, I think that's probably the two biggest things, just seeing that example as a user.
Man, for those that don't believe in time, you don't believe in change, because time has the ability to change things. As an adult, what can you name something that has happened or that you've seen that really now kind of shapes your perception of reality?
Yeah, I would say something that happened when I was in, and this is, I don't think I've told this story much, but like something that happened when I was in college. And it really, like, growing up in Colorado, people have different experiences, right? It's not down south. So, like, we don't have, like, a hood here. Like, if you were going to some different cities, I'm not going to name a city to try to point something out negative, but there's different cities that people, if you think of the hood, you think of here, here, and here, right? We didn't have that, right? And the community I grew up in is the same one I still live in. It's mostly black and brown people, really, right? So I didn't feel this racism, like, in my bubble, per se. But I saw it like in school from time to time when we were going to certain places, these microaggressions and stuff. But saying that to say something that really like stuck out when I was more aware of these things, because I advocated for things my whole life. My dad was huge in the community, so I had a little bit of a bubble. But when I went to college, I was a DD a night for some of my friends, right, a designated driver.
Yeah.
And it's college, so everybody, people drink and stuff like that. This was the night I didn't, right? We left this party, and everybody there got MIP, so minors in possessions, alcohol essentially. Underage drinking is essentially what it was. But then the cop, for one, let me drive away, right? So I didn't get a ticket with everybody else. I was like, I'm the DD, blah, blah, blah. Cop let me drive away, and I got a ticket in my campus mailbox because they got everybody's IDs or whatever. So all these kids got tickets and stuff. I drove off with these kids because I'm the DD, and I had a ticket that showed up at my dorm. Right? Then we go to court and seeing how a lot of these kids got off of stuff, like pretty simply, like community service, this and that. I had community service, I had to take a class, I had to pay like twice as many fines as everybody else, and we were all together when this stuff happened. So some of them, it was in the summertime, so some of them had to come, some of their parents had money and they were able to get lawyers and stuff like that. I didn't want my parents to know what happened. I was 18, I was like, I'm not telling my mom and dad that. So what that taught me is there's a different justice system, really, right? And how much resources, and if I could go back in time, I would have completely told my mom and dad at the time it happened, before it happened, had some help and stuff like that, but that really shifted, like, what it looked like, because to me, it looked like, I just think, like I said, I think of community a lot. It looked to me, there's a community of people that have each other's backs in this perspective, this community that has some money, right? Like a wealthy community had each other's back, you can afford a lawyer, the lingo. And they were able to get their kids much lighter, Nobody got in crazy trouble, right?
Yeah, but it was a different
But it
outcome.
was completely different outcomes based on some money, right? So for me, that shit a lot of my adult life, because it just made me realize, like, you have to be in spaces where power moves are happening. And if you're having these conversations in front of the people, like when decisions are being made, they're too late. Because I can guarantee there was some kind of conversations with the lawyers and the, assistant district attorneys, whatever, beforehand. And that was my first experience with court, really, right? So that just really taught me, like, there's two different justice systems, and really it's a community. I really put a lot of things in the community. So there's a community of people that have a bunch of money, that know the legal system, etc. Their outcomes are going to be different than an 18-year-old black man that didn't want to tell his parents, doesn't know the legal system, wanted to be a lawyer, but didn't know the legal system at that time, right? So, yeah, man, I think that was one of the biggest things I could think of.
And the fact that you had I'm just confused on what you could have been found guilty of, because you were the designated driver.
Yeah, so like that's the thing is because of the fact that, like, and I talked to a lawyer after the fact, right? So I talked to the campus lawyer before it happened, but he met with so many people, he just thought everybody was lying, so he wasn't a good free advocate. Yeah, he was free, a resource we had, but that I was the only person that was there that talked to a lawyer like that. I was essentially like a public defender, right? Like, if you had the choice of a Johnny Cochran as a lawyer or a public defender, you're going to pick Johnny Cochran 10 times out of 10, right? So I went off his advice, just like, plead this, blah, blah, blah. It'll go away. You'll have some community service, blah, blah, blah. So that's what I did. And the ticket was a deferred sentence. It went away on all stuff. But the other kids had the exact same deferred sentence I had, with less community service, significantly less fines they had to pay, all that stuff, right? So it was just like, Yeah, I don't know. It was just it was an experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, with all that is going on, because I know you could have a list. Right now, what are the top 3 things that concern you?
One of them we talked about a little bit was like identity politics in general. And I'll elaborate on these 3 more, but I'd say identity politics. The otherizing people was another one, and then the lack of community. Right, so those are probably the top 3 I would say.
Hold on, because I don't want to get too far in this before asking a quick question that was on my mind and didn't want to get too far. You said like being like with your dad and growing up in the environment that you grew up in with black and brown people, it kind of provided you a bubble.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say that done properly, segregation can work?
Yeah, I mean, so I would say yes, and the reason I would say yes is because like it's something that like Marcus Garvey advocated for. You saw what happened in like Tulsa when we had like Black Wall Street. So there's been examples of success when we're left to our own devices and just, no outside influences, left to our own devices. 2025, I think much more difficult. I think it's possible, but I think as opposed to like segregation, like maybe post civil rights era or during civil rights era, there was a this is something that a lot of people don't know, is there was a group of people fighting for equal rights, and then there was a group of people that were fighting for separate but equal, right? So the separate but equal folks, really led by like Marcus Garvey, was okay, so give us our 40 acres and a mule over here and leave us alone. And then there's people like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who are like, when all of our kids play together, let's go to the same schools, etc. Right? So like that was really like a pivotal point, and I think that could have been successful at the time. I don't know what would have happened afterwards, but there's been examples around the country of like when we have support, we don't have interference really, what we can build as a community. And really it's because of the sense of community. That's something that like Americans in general don't have, is like a sense of community. If you go to different countries around the world, like they're really community centered, right? There's places in Europe, as an example, where people are working, school's out on break, jobs are off on a lunch break for 2 hours, whatever, and then families sit down on their lunch, eat together, they commune together, communities do that, and they go back to work and school, right? And they'll back for dinner. So like here, that wouldn't happen. We've been taught here like it's a meritocracy, which is not. It's like you can just earn everything based on hard work and pull on yourself up by bootstrapping. The person that gets is going to, the person that deserves it will get it. That's not the case. That's not how America works, but that's how we're taught. So I think it's a fair question. I just think like now, you talked about this a little bit before. I really do like my favorite revolutionary ever was Fred Hampton. Like what he was doing was powerful because he pulled together all the marginalized community, poor white folks, queer folks, black folks, brown folks, whoever else you could consider marginalized, pulled them together and had what was called the Rainbow Coalition at that time. So I just think if marginalized people got together and advocated, like there's way more of people that fit that than, the people that are oppressing us.
So no straight white man?
No, there were. Absolutely were. Yeah, there were. Yeah, there were, like I said, poor whites. That was it. But at the same time, like there was some there hasn't really been, and some people will probably be pissed off that I said this, but it is what it is. Like there hasn't been very many successful revolutions that didn't have some allies of the class that could oppress people that chose not to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So,
I agree. I just, again, I keep wondering, and I've gone on record and said this a million times, like, when will the people that need to fight the bad people stand up? Because black and brown people have been fighting the bad people the whole time. Like, everything that good people are now experiencing, black and brown people have experienced the whole time. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that it's one for us to take up a fight. I think it's now or never for those good people, because their fortune is tied up in their community. And what I mean by that is this: you, as a person of color, went to court and did not experience the same justice system as everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
As a revolutionist in the community, you've seen black and brown people not experience the justice system that everybody else experienced.
100%.
If we're not free, we're not American. So the concept of me fighting for something that I'm not that because I don't get that treatment, then it's not for me to fight for. It's for what you've been talking about, which is building a community, building a nation, building a world that almost operates separate than what's going on out there because of the work that we or whoever has done here. Because that is a vision that comes from the creators that can make it, whereas America was made by creators that didn't look like us and didn't make it for us.
Right.
So it can never be that. That's what I'm.
I feel it. I think that's a good thought. I think about it along those lines, but slightly different, right? So you're 100% right about the design of the country, how it wasn't designed for us to succeed, etc. But there's enough progress that has happened over time that like good things could happen. But one of the biggest things that we see is like apathy, right? So there's people that think stuff won't change because it doesn't matter how much work I do. My grandma, my papa did this and it didn't change, right? There's people that think it can't change, right? Because there's people that I saw the work I've done, it won't change. It can't change. And they're disheartened. People have done all these different systems that they know to do, and they kept getting assassinated. Their stuff didn't change. And then there's people that don't want to put the work in. They're completely apathetic. Like they do not care because it's been this way forever, or it doesn't affect them, right? So if you're in the camp of thinking something is just this way, and you're not opt to challenge it as a community, not like one or two people. Like a revolution starts with one or two people. But it can't be successful without a community of people, right?
I agree.
So like you could be in losing hope, but these two you can get picked up once they start seeing some successes. People that are apathetic, they usually, and that's the majority of people. The people that just do not care about it, like they'll never get on board until they're forced to get on board. When they're forced to care is when they'll care, right? But there's people that like, this doesn't affect my situation, or this is just always the way it's been, so why should I do this? Why should I spend this time? They just think that whatever they do is that the idea of meritocracy, where if I just work, pull myself up by the bootstraps, my family will be good. That's not the case. There are some outside factors that affect us, right?
Right.
But there's kind of people in those categories, man. And like my thing is, there has to be some other people, and there always are. There's like people like yourself that you even question these systems. You want to learn about these things. You make these conversations public so people can hear. Like there's things that are there's different places for everybody. Everybody's job might not be to be on the front lines.
Correct.
Some people's job might be to be media, right? Like your media, you're able to bring attention, hold people accountable through that lens. Some people's job might be the ideas, brainstorming, help out with execution of these ideas. This is the idea, like how do we rally people? Somebody might have a gift of like speaking and articulating the ideas and getting people, like Martin Luther King Jr. was one of the best orators. Obama, no matter how people felt about his politics, was one of the best orators in American history, like best, especially as a president. You could hear people say stuff and feel like you can do it at that point, right? So people, that's their gift, right? So people just need to figure out what their role is and be willing to do that to make the changes, the substantial changes that we want to see in the community, right? And I know black people and brown people are not a monolith, but also we can't have apathy with the majority of us and then change, because the power systems, the things that we're fighting against they're not apathetic. They're throwing money at something that they really care about to keep their standing. Only way that we can fight that is by having organized people working together that actually care about it to actually make change.
And that's why we are thankful to have people like you. Now, you were going to elaborate on your 3 concerns, which are A, identity politics. B, was something that you said really fast.
Identity politics. Man, I just thought of these 3, so. Otherizing people.
What is otherizing people?
So, a good example is like the like how Venezuelans and are being like otherwise right now is like, you might be in a bad position, but at least I'm not this person, right? Or like, I'm a poor white person who struggles, but at least I'm not a Latino person that, you know, is here illegally or whatever they, you know, like, it's really putting people like, it's really like, I'm feeling better about myself and my standing because I'm not this person, at least I'm not that person, right? And I'm in a better situation than that person. And like, that's a huge thing right now. One of the most prevalent things, people vote against their interests just so they can feel like they're better than somebody else.
What's your 3rd concern? I'm gonna hold on.
So, identity politics, otherizing folks. Man, I forgot the 3rd one. I could come up with a new 3rd one, but yeah, I don't know. I think those 2, and I'll remember the 3rd one a little bit.
So, elaborate and tell the world what exactly identity politics is.
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit before, like voting for somebody, as an example, just because of physical characteristics, you know, their sex, their whatever the thing might be, their if they're straight, gay, LGBTQI plus, etc. Voting for somebody for those things is part of identity politics, and that's kind of where we're at as a country, right? In my mind, and this is how I've always been, if a 12-year-old, if your car was broken and there was a 12-year-old that knew how to do the job, right, but he was 12, he had the tools, he had the knowledge, he could fix it less expensive and better quality than somebody else. Me personally, I'm gonna let the 12-year-old fix my car, right? But there's people that will say, I'd rather go pay somebody more money because they're older, maybe they're a white man, they're this and that, and I'm not gonna take it to the person who might be the most qualified because of whatever the thing is, right? So if we get back to, we've never been in this place as a country where like, the peak that we, yes, and I think it's inherent, we're like, yeah, and I gave this example before, if there's a black and a white person running for office, they both had the same agenda, like identical agenda. If I'm voting, 9 times out of 10, I'm probably going to vote for the black person if their agendas are the same, because that person looks like me. I don't have to explain cultural differences, why I believe these things to get to this policy, because they've experienced some of those, right?
Right.
But that also creates this problem where the majority of the country is white, right?
Right.
So if we're just voting for people based on those kind of things and otherizing people, right? Like those 2 things together, that's usually how people vote when they do vote, is you get people in office that are severely underqualified, right? And I know your show is not like a political show per se, and I'm not going to go into all that necessarily, but like, you can't tell me, you couldn't have told me 10 years ago or 12 years ago, we'll say, that the president would have been a felon with sexual assault charges, fraud charges, proven guilty of these things, sexually assaulted people, reality star. You couldn't have convinced me. There's no way you could have convinced me that 12 years ago.
With that being said, I know this is going to sound like the oddest question, right? Do you believe that somewhere along the line, I don't know how much TV you've been watching, but the big thing on TV is time and parallel universes? Because think about what you're saying, and think about the things that are happening, like every day, that like everyday Americans would have like went the hell off over, but they're like happening every day now.
Yeah.
Do you believe that we could be possibly in some sort of parallel?
It feels like it. Like it definitely. I mean, it feels like it, right? But the other undertone of that is there's been a consistent effort over a long period of time, because this is how anybody gets anything done, or how you get anything done, And you don't even have to talk about it. So like one side of the political spectrum talks about all the things they want to do, tells you how they're going to do it, and then it doesn't happen because they told you the whole plan. One side gives you the end result. They don't tell you how the details are going to be there. They accomplish a 10th of what they say they're going to, and they talk about the 10th they did and not the 90th they didn't do. Because we built a wall, we built a wall, we built a wall. You built a wall that was as big as a high school football field, and it was mostly repairs, but people were like, well, he built a wall. He convinced people that, right? Yeah. And you have this side telling you, we're going to do this, we're doing this, we're exposing people to blah, blah, blah. And you tell them the game on how it's going to happen, and then they know exactly what. It's like you calling a play on a basketball court out loud. Like, hey, we're running 5 out. And the defense is like, oh, they're running 5 out. This is how we defend 5 out, right? That's kind of what happens.
Do you believe that Donald Trump is what, like, David Duke worked for in the 80s and 90s, 70s, 80s?
100%, yeah. You have somebody who isn't very educated, but does a good job of inspiring people or making them feel like he's on their side. Especially the first time he was elected, like the drain the swamp thing was a big thing. Like, that was one of the most genius catchphrases. Like, yo, for me, I'm like, yo, drain the swamp. Like, I wasn't a Trump voter, never support. I didn't take him seriously. I didn't think he was going to make it past the primary. But I was like, hey, this drain the swamp thing, like, that kind of makes sense. Like, but he is the swamp, and he brought the swamp with him, right? But think about that, right? Like, that he has done a good job of convincing people that, like, he's doing stuff in your interest. If you really want to see if somebody's in your interest, especially when they're in office, see what they do their first 100 days. The first 100 days of this is an example. The big beautiful bill passed, which took away health care, which took away aid. It took away our soft power as a country. This is one of the stupidest, like, just politically speaking, as an American that loves America, right? Like, it's one of the dumbest things you could have possibly done is to take away soft power. Like, hard power is like our military, right? Soft power is like, we're giving aid to these different countries. We can strategically have troops in these countries. They see America as good guys because we're feeding them, we're doing these different things. But to say, okay, America first, and then to stop doing that is not putting America first, because you're causing, the people are dying, and they saw that you walked out in the time that they need you the most. And they're seeing armed conflict around them now as a result of this power vacuum and us leaving and stuff like that, right? That's happened all over the world, right? On top of America first, you're saying, and then, like, we're bombing countries, we're literally kidnapping people without due process. Like, yeah. This is the whole thing that people understand. If you're in our country, it doesn't matter if you're a citizen or not, you have due process rights, right? So, like, simple things like that, again, you couldn't have told me 12, 13 years ago as I was a poli-sci major, 16 years ago, 17 years ago? You couldn't have told me that was where we're going to be in 2025.
Okay. I want to go on the record and say this real quick. My kids and my wife saw people running down the street, and then cops with masks on running down the street, then cars coming, and then, like, them capturing the people, throwing them into whatever. And my wife was like, yeah, we think it was an ICE raid. And, like, I don't understand how people cannot see that this is literally what 1940s Germany looked like.
Yeah, like, and but when you say that, people think it's hyperbole. Like, people think they're exaggerating.
No.
That's, like, literally what it was like.
And that's why I said, when I said good people, they always have this conversation that Hitler did everything. But Hitler didn't do the thing. The German people did the thing.
Right. And or allowed it to happen.
Or allowed it to happen. We're watching the same thing right here. And it's like, yeah, like you said, at least I'm not those people. But what is happening to those people? These people are getting picked up. They're getting shipped places. They're getting put places. And me being a person that's been incarcerated, like, I know what happens when you get behind bars. And I can just only imagine what these people are going through. But like it's happening, and we're like, oh yes, it was an ICE raid.
Yeah, like the fact that like I'm super proud of places that were, when that stuff is happening, they're actually fighting them off and they're like running and they're going, because like the reality is you're literally like, brother, this is my thing, right? This is how people would, they're like, well, if they came through the right channels, there was literally people going to asylum court, getting taken from asylum court after asylum hearing. Yeah. Like the federal judges that were appointed by Trump, by Bush, like so keep that in mind. They were appointed by these people are saying this is not constitutional. You can't do that. You cannot take people from their asylum hearings. So you can't be on the side of the train and say, well, people need to do it the right way, and then not speak up when people are getting taken from doing it the right way. They're literally getting taken at the place to do it the right way and getting shipped to a country that's not our country, that we're paying money to incarcerate them and really like dehumanize them. Like some of the 60 minutes of that special and being able to see it and the data that came out from that was like, I think I pay attention to stuff, but the data that came out was crazy. It was like they looked at this period of time and there was 8 people that were violent offenders in this sample of like 500 to 700 people that got taken. 800 of them were violent offenders, or they were people that like broke the law since they're here. They went against what they were supposed to do, that were literally eligible to be deported. It was 8 people, bro. Like out of 700 or something. Is that unjustified to me? Like, are those 8 people? Am I glad that those 8 people aren't in the communities harming people like they were? I am glad those 8 people. But guess what? They could have found those same 8 people with due process, took them to court, them had their day, then and then get deported, whatever the case may be, right? And then the other 700 people, 692, whatever it is, go through due process, have their asylum hearing, decisions made based on how their lawyer presents their asylum hearing, and they're either here on papers and able to earn their citizenship, or they say, hey, this isn't founded and we're not going to give you asylum. Like, there's a process. Like, let people go through the process.
But what about, and I want to really kind of beat current event with you and on this, because it's kind of for the record that people can see. Like right now, they're targeting people that's already, like that's been here for a while. They have gone through process. They're here on papers. They got cards. So do you think it's really all about the immigrant, or do you think it's something bigger and a little more nefarious?
Something that's definitely more nefarious, because like again, you said something good. You're like, where was it? Just Hitler was doing this stuff, right? Like in this example, Project 2025, like people didn't take that seriously. Trump was like, I don't know what Project 2025 is. I think he was telling the truth when he said he doesn't know what Project 2025 is, because he doesn't read anything, right? But like Stephen Miller, who's his chief of staff, is the most powerful person in the country. People don't even realize that, because he's the one that's studying these objectives. Like go to home, like he was quoted saying, go to Home Depots, go to these places and round up people. And then they got to the point where, like in Florida, this affected Trump, so this is when stuff started changing, where Latinos were protesting and they wouldn't go to work to build houses and do stuff, and like their economy slowed down significantly. And like they're like, oh shit, this is affecting my money now. And then all of a sudden they weren't as aggressive in certain places, right? So it's just a matter of like, it is a nefarious thing. It's that the birth rate, part of this, I think, is this, just based on Project 2025 and how they're executing it, is like the birth rate for white families has significantly declined compared to Latino birth rate and the Black birth rate, Asian birth rate, etc. So they're on pace to be a minority for the first time in American history, right? And I think that scares these old white men that wrote Project 2025. And they're doing things like that, right? Like just kidnapping people and deporting them, or housing people in all these different places, arresting people, doing those things because like of that, right? Like they don't want to. And you have people like, I'm not even going to give them names, but you got people that are in media speaking about the great white replacement theory, also their stuff, that are really getting people to believe that they're being replaced intentionally by these folks who came here to immigrate and add to our culture as a people, right? So it's an interesting thing, and that's why like I get where people are, and there's going to be people on both sides, bro. There's going to be people that are like friends of mine that are going to see this and will be mad at me, and I'm like, that's okay, right? There's going to be and like,
can I just go on record and say, if you buy my book Birth of the White Man, you will see that the great replacement theory is true, but it's not by force.
Right.
It's by choice.
Right.
Like if you put women and people in a pool and they say this is the pool of people that you can choose to be with without force, without, you know, being paid or whatever to be with them, they're choosing other than a white man. And that's called natural selection. They don't want to look at their own science. Women have been forced to be a certain way. Certain Caucasian men have been forced to be straight when they weren't straight. If they could choose anything, they wouldn't choose to be with a woman. They would choose to be with this sexual chocolate black man that they're looking at across the street. Like it's a choice. And so what they're trying to do is, again, I think, is nefarious because, you know, you could be from South Africa and come.
100%, yeah. If you're a white South African.
If you're a white, and like, that's where I feel like Americans are actually ignoring the blatant writing on the wall. Like, if historians were to look back at it, historians would be like, why didn't they see? They were kicking out all the brown people and inviting these white South Africans who are used to a way of living that is accustomed to, like, America's glory days in the South.
And the whole thing that they don't even highlight with that is, like, a lot of them got here and were like, this is how this country is, and went back. Like, that happened. Like, there's people that came from South Africa, immigrants that had the little gold card and all that, and they came and they were like, yeah, they're all bugging.
Yeah.
And then they left. So it's just like, there's a lot of that stuff. I know it sounds like these complex things, but it really comes down to a few things, bro. It's like, us as communities coming together and, like, one, getting to know your neighbors, bro. Like, I like getting to know the people around you, actually understanding, having conversations, getting to know people, because there's people that have these inherent biases just based on their experience, right, in life, and it makes sense that people are going to think a certain thing of people based on what their experience was, good or bad, right? And I'll just use an example that me and you talked about slightly before without giving the whole thing, is like, if somebody's whole presentation or introduction to Christianity was somebody who was kind, loving, treated them well, etc., they're going to think, okay, so maybe all Christians are like this, right? That's just a natural thought if they only met one. And then but if somebody else met another quote unquote Christian and they were mean, not giving to people, they were open for people to be kidnapped and taken to other countries and all sort of stuff, and that was their perspective, that's what they're going to think. Now, I don't think either is right necessarily, right? You can't put all these people in a box, but, like, the reality is people are going to have a perspective on people based on their experience. So the only way to open that up is for people to get into a different experience, right? For people to, you got family in, you know, Chocolate City, right? Like, you got family in all these different places. But if you would hear some people talk about, like, DC, Chicago, we both got to go to, you know, Oakland or LA, it's not Oakland, sorry, LA in California, like, the neighborhoods and stuff we were able to go to and all that, like, I felt completely safe there the whole time we were there.
Right.
Like, I felt good. Like, people were looking at us like, who are y'all? And they saw who we were with and met us and all that, and what are y'all doing? And y'all need to go meet with so and so. Like, it's the same people we were meeting with, but we felt safe as a group of men in a place that people, if you hear them, we need to send National Guard there, it's dangerous, blah blah blah. Like, no, it's not. It was fine.
You can say that about Pueblo.
Yeah. So people always have these things, but, like, if I solely would have been like, my whole perspective on LA is what the media talks about or this and that, like, we would have never went and been able to take that trip and meet the people we were able to meet. That was a life-changing thing that we were able to do with me, right? So I'm saying all that to say, like, yeah, there's areas in certain cities that, like, you got to be on your P's and Q's. You can't go certain places to do certain things. So this is where certain people are. But a lot of times these places are like, if you're going there, you know what's there, and they're assuming that you know what's there. So if you should know the protocols of what people are there think.
Exactly.
So it's just like I don't know, man. It's like, I'm not wearing red as an example in a rolling 60s neighborhood, and I'm probably not wearing all blue in the jungles in LA either, right? Like, it just doesn't. There's this thing that just, like, okay, I'm here, and yes, we got people here, but, like, at the same time, maybe I was just wearing my black and my white t-shirt.
You know what? You just made me think of this. I'm going on record and saying it right now. the old train track, the train tracks are coming back. So in the South, like segregation would happen along the train tracks. On the other side of the tracks is this, on this side of the tracks is that. On this side of the country or on this place, women can go and have abortions. In this part of the country, women can't have 100%. Abortions. Like it's going to be maneuvered. I know we got to wrap up. I got one last question. If there was something outside of your family that you would fight and die for, what would it be?
That's a good question. I would say, man, I don't know. Like, one thing is kind of hard, but something that I would want to fight for is for people to become educated voters, I'd say, right? Like, it sounds like a cheesy answer probably, but I really do boil it down to, bro, like a lot of these problems that we're talking about, if people were, for one, educated on actually what's happening, because some people love conspiracy theories, and there's some things that are like actually happening. I'm not saying I just trust the government, because I don't, right? But people will look at a reel or a newspaper article or something like that and think they're educated, but they say the average U.S. voter has a 5th grade education, right? So if we were actually educated on what's going on, we could actually vote to change a lot of things, and we wouldn't have half the problems that we have as a society right now. So like for me, fighting for people to become educated, and I'm not saying you got to go like K through 12 and all that. I know one of the most brilliant people I know dropped out of high school and got his GED, and doesn't have any college degree, but has a bunch of he's going back to college now, but like built a business that does 6 figures of revenue in a year with a high school diploma based on some certifications. But he's brilliant. But some people might look at his quote unquote education like he's not that smart, but if he debated them, he would eat them alive, right? That's just a fact. He's formerly incarcerated, all this other stuff, right? So like there's people. So again, I'm not saying traditional K through 12 education, which is important, but people have to be actually educated on like the systems that we have, what's going on, how it affects us, and being able to vote to change things. Like that's something I would fight and die for.
And that's why I wish that there would be a leader that would come out that can galvanize people like yourself for something that is new, with a new name that could live up to what it is that you aspire for, because I would beg to differ that that's just never has been. And here's my example. When South Carolinians were fighting to actually enact like the Brown versus the Board of Education, South Carolinians fought hard for black people not to be able to get an education.
Yeah.
While at the same time not getting an education. Just imagine you choose not to read and you will actually fight and blackball an opportunity for another group of people to read. And so I just don't believe that the thing that is an American is an educated person. Like what we want is something totally different, because those people, they like that instant thrill. They like that instant mob mentality. They like getting the word of the mouth and not having to formally do things. They want other people to jump through those hoops. And that's the America that we're kind of, I think, trending back towards, because people, when they went to the ballot booth, I think they made it plain. They wanted an old America, one that they were used to, where they knew their place, how they could maneuver, because in a new America, the competition looks a lot different. You have to maneuver different. You can't, I like it when I could just say man and woman. The new America, I gotta add an extra word. And so.
Yeah, and I just, man, it's hard to end on that, because it's like, that's like a whole other discussion, but it's like that's my thing, is like, there's 2 things we should do. Like, I know I've been like, there's these 3 or this, but there's like a couple things that we should do, is like become a community, get to learn each other, know each other, and be okay that somebody's doing something that you don't agree with, right? Or that maybe isn't your lifestyle, right? Like, I'm a avid supporter of the LGBTQI community, Am I a gay man? No, I'm a black straight man with three daughters. I said 4. I got 3 daughters, 4 sisters, and a wife, and I've been married almost 14 years, right? But I believe that people have the right to love who they want to love and etc. It doesn't affect my life. It doesn't, like, so if this is what somebody wants to do and it's 2 consenting adults, like, cool, right? Like, I do not, like, let them have the right to do that, just like I have the right to marry my wife, right? If somebody decides, okay, I'm a Latino man and I want to marry a white woman, there's some families that don't like that. If that's what they want to do, like, I think they should have the freedom and ability to actually do that, right? Like, so just be okay. We just, like, get okay to know each other and be okay with somebody doing something that maybe you wouldn't have done, right? Like, it's okay. Like, bro, like, it's okay if somebody, like, I am okay. Like, this is my thing. I am okay with, as Trump as the president, hearing a lot of this racist and negative rhetoric from the community and stuff, because now I know who they are.
Exactly.
I would have never. That's the best thing that's came of his presidency. I would have never known that there's people in my people I can't say in my circle, but people that were around me that felt the way they felt until he was elected, right? So I'm okay that I know that now, and that's how they operate. I'm okay with that being their decision. Does that mean I have to, like, go against their right to be able to say the things they say? Absolutely not. They have freedom of speech. Does that mean I need to support them? Absolutely not. But I'm okay with, like, letting them do their thing, right? They can do their thing, maybe not around me in certain, right? But, like, I just got to be okay with that. There's some people that'll cut people off for that, and that's cool. Like, if that's what they decide to do for any of those things I named, I disagree with that. But I also empathize that, like, yo, we only have so much mental capacity and stuff that we can fight. Like, we got to fight every day we get up, it feels like, right? So there's maybe something that you're like, I just don't want to be around X, Y, and Z. While I might not agree with that, I release myself from the stress of telling people who they could be around or not be around. Like, that is not up to me, right? So,
yeah. Again, that, because all of that looks like freedom. And the one thing about freedom is you make choices, then you have to deal with the consequences of those choices, but you're supposed to have the ability to make those choices. And so we're losing the opportunity to make choices. And as I was telling my kids, as we start to see more and more countries being blacklisted to come here, you're going to start to see our country being blacklisted to go other places.
100%, yeah.
So with that being said, you've heard the concerns. Oh, one last thing. A parting word. If you could leave the world with one thing other than go out and vote, what would you leave them with?
Hey, man, really get to know the people. Like, get to know somebody or something around you that you don't know, man. Like, knowledge is a huge thing to me. Like, get to know somebody around you, man. Like, maybe I wouldn't have got to know this person, but, like, we humans, we have a lot more in common than we have not in common if you actually get to talk to people one-on-one, right? So I would just say, like, in 2026, man, like, buy some coffee for somebody, some tea, whatever your thing is, like, and have some conversations that maybe you wouldn't have had in 2025. Just get to know people a little bit differently.
Yeah. Get to know someone. Get off that computer, get off that internet, talk to somebody, because if not, you'll be talking to a bot. That being said, let's go. Hey, make sure you remember to follow us on The Concerned Citizen, like the page, follow us on YouTube, and make sure you go to the website, theconcernedcitizenpodcast.com, and drop an email if you want to get on the show. We would like to hear your concerns, like to hear what you're thinking about. Let's go.